What do you mean, hello everybody? I'm the one who's supposed to do introductions here.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, Wanna.
Do the-
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Is it even afternoon? Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Human in Me. You are here with your boy, Mpoma Swashe, and then today I am joined by Voyo
Bangalese.
Bangelise.
I told him I should do the introductions, but
Yeah.
he insisted, so.
And she also does go by the name Missy.
Yes, Missy.
Yeah, her song is one of our soundtracks. So
There we go. Thank
you'll hear the song towards the end of the podcast. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm pretty much sure you're probably wondering. Okay, this is the 8th episode, by the way, because we did the 7th last week. So today I wanted to bring you guys something different. So I'm going to have a conversation with Voyo right now about religion, specifically Christianity, right? Because I've had conversations with her, and there are, a few points that we've touched on, and, they were of interest to me, and they, the way she explained things to me made a lot of sense. So I just thought I should bring her onto the podcast, like I did with the Eketeng, obviously, because, I walk around having conversations with people, and if I feel like they've got something of value, I bring them onto the podcast, So obviously today's topic is going to focus a little bit on the psychology behind everything that we want to talk about. But I'm not going to talk about the psychology per se, but we're going to talk about, Christianity. So this whole thing started when we were on our way to the gym this other morning. Yeah, so I was hijacked, obviously. And then we were on our way to the gym, and then, we were just having a, normal conversation. And then, we were just talking about our lives in jail, and then it came to a point where Voyo asked me, Oguti, how do I survive without Jesus? And that question came after we were talking about how I go about my life in general. How do I deal with the ups and downs of life? So I gave her, my way of dealing with everything. And, to her it was, a surprise, Guti. Someone could be doing that all by himself. So obviously the going is never easy, but you develop systems that kind of help you navigate your way through the world. So we are going to start with the point where she asked me how I survive without Jesus. So I just wanted her to share with you guys what was going on through her mind when she said those words that day.
Okay. So basically, like Kumpo said, we're on our way back to gym, and he's telling me about his life and how he goes about his day. And at that moment, I was just thinking about my life and my experiences, and that has always been my biggest fear. I remember a day, I was in grade 7, I know, because I was about to start my grade 8. And I was about to start my grade 8, and I was so anxious, because you can imagine when you're in primary school, all the scary things people tell you about high school, you know? That's where people start to do drugs, that's where girls start to fall pregnant, that's where people just like lose control. And I remember I was about to start my grade 8, and I was so scared. And I remember there was a prayer at church, and I went there, and I remember that was the prayer in my heart. The prayer in my heart was, God, I'm about to start this new journey, this new phase of my life, and I'm so scared of whatever's going to happen. I know myself, I know the type of personality I have, but I want to be kept because I know the goals that I have for myself. And I remember, like, it was just so emotional for me, and I was so scared, and the only person I felt like at that moment who could understand and could help me was God. And I remember praying, like I was like there praying in my heart, but I couldn't even open my mouth to say the words because I was just crying. That's how terrified I was. So there's just a little bit of background story of how, like, God has always been my source. Like, God can be a lot of things, so let me be specific. Jesus has always been my source of comfort, my source of strength, you understand? Like when I'm uncertain about stuff, like my source of direction even. So for me to find that here is someone who's my peer and they've been going through life and I know how difficult life gets. And I've unfortunately been in situations in my life where I was at the edge and I know what pulled me back. And coming back from being in that point, I just always wonder, and I still wonder today, like, how do people do it without Jesus? Because structure and peace, the most important thing, Jacobson touched about it 2 weeks ago. As a source of joy, it was like a source of living, peace is very important. And peace comes from Jesus. Well, my peace comes from Jesus. So that's what prompted me to ask that question. Because really, I was baffled. Because what do you do when the going gets tough? What do you do when life is just, dear my God? Because that happens, right?
Yeah.
And no one is immune to that.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
everybody goes through something. And there will be moments where life will just be up and down. But you as a person need to, in that moment, remain sane. Otherwise, you're going to be lost in the winds. And that's what happens with a lot of people. They get lost in the busyness of life. They get lost in the ups and downs of life and the pain that life comes with. So when in the midst of pain, where does your joy come from? Do you understand what I'm saying? No, I'm going to repeat this question. In the midst of pain, this means that you're in the middle of a painful situation. Where does your joy come from? And these are questions that I ask when people start to look at me funny, because you're saying I'm in the middle of pain. Why am I supposed to find joy? Like, how can someone find joy in a situation that's painful? But that's the beauty of Christ. And the sad thing is that certain things, I can sit here, we can sit here for 3 days and we can have this conversation. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'm actually very happy to be here. I should have started by saying thank you very much for having me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. So I really appreciate this platform, and I really love talking about God. You know this. I feel like every time we have a conversation, I always find a way to put. Don't say it like that. But like certain things I can share with you for years and years and years. But such an experience, it will always be like until you're inside and you are where I am, or you're inside Christianity, it will always be like looking outside a glass door. Like people looking outside that glass door now can perceive what's happening, but they can't actually experience it because they're not in it. And certain experiences one needs to experience for themselves. I can tell you about them, and I will tell you about them, but like it's kind of that thing like you need to make the decision. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was asking that question. Like, what happens? What pulls you back? And maybe you should share once again, like your answer again, so that people understand how this conversation went. So how do you do it?
Okay, so one thing that so this is what usually happens when the going gets tough for me, right? Which is something that I started doing recently. So when the going gets tough for me, I go into YouTube and then I just type Jordan Peterson. There's a specific video that I like to watch that talks about the meaning of life for men. Right? So when I watch that video, there are specific points that he touches on, which are responsibilities. You know, life is all about responsibilities. And then the second thing is that in life, you should never strive for happiness. You should strive for peace, because life has its ups and downs, and in the midst of chaos, there's no happiness, because you have to get knocked off just a little bit. So when you reach that stage, you don't have happiness in your life. So what's going to happen if that stage is prolonged? So that's the second point. And then a third point is I mentioned finding meaning and the responsibilities, right? Oh yeah, those are the 2 points that he usually talks about. So when he touches on responsibilities, the third point is that life is tragic. You should never ever think that life is supposed to be this honeymoon phase where everything is going perfectly. You need to understand that life is hard. So one thing that he adds on top of that is that you need to learn to adapt. And so every time when the going gets hard, I go to that video and I watch the video. And it reminds me of the responsibilities that I have, which is basically my goals and my family. Secondly, it reminds me of, the hardness of life itself. It's inevitable that life will always be difficult. And then the third part, which is responsibilities. And then another thing that happens is that I always remind myself that we could be stuck in traffic, both of us, right? But the way you perceive that whole, thing is different from how I look at it. You could be having the worst day of your life because of being stuck in traffic. I could be sitting there listening to music and, having the best time of my life. So that in itself kind of shows me that if someone can look at life differently from how I look at it in the face of, of chaos, right? I can just detach from my own experiences and move, to the other side where my perception of the whole thing is going to change. Because if I get stuck in my head, I'm continuously going to stress about what's in front of me. But the moment I tell myself I need to switch lanes and realize that this is not the only way to deal with the situation, there's another way. I usually switch lanes and go to that other way. So those things that I just mentioned right now are the things that kind of give me a bit of grasp into my own life. So that's basically how I'm able to wake up, do what I have to do and all that stuff. But obviously there are days where the alarm would go off, because I wake up at 2 a.m. right? So there are times when the alarm would go off at 2:15, and then when that happens, I would wake up, and then this usually happens when I did not make plans for that day the night before. When I wake up and then I start asking myself, well, what can I do? Knowing exactly that I've got work to do, but sometimes I would just wake up and not know what to do, and then I would just decide to go back to sleep, and be like, I can forgive myself for this one. So those are some of the few moments where, when things start to get a little bit shaky, that I tend to break down here and there, but I don't allow myself to go through that for a prolonged period of time. So that's how I'm able to keep my sanity.
First of all, I would just like to commend you. You are a much, much stronger person than I could ever be.
Thank you.
I could not go through my life the way you live yours. It's so much hard work.
I know.
So much work.
I know.
And that's the thing. And I think I said this to you, was it yesterday or 2 days ago when we had our last conversation? That it's not that I want to say you can't do it.
That was yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah, last night.
I want to say you can't, and I will explain in the end why I want to say that.
And I remember you did shed some tears as well.
Yeah, but because it's difficult, and it's so sad for me because it doesn't have to be that difficult. But I guess as people, we choose what we want to choose. I think we can sit here and argue that there are many ways for people to go about their lives, and there are many ways for people to be successful, or for people to live, in this earth and do life. But without Christ, it's so much more difficult. And I know this not because I'm in Christ, but because I know what it is to live without Him. Do you understand? So I grew up, and when I grew up and I was a child, my family wasn't Christian. Christianity, I guess my mom was Christian in her youth at some point, so she kind of had one Bible lying around. And my dad is a fan of gospel music, so he always listened to gospel music. I always joke when I listen to all these Lord Comforters songs. I'm like, these songs raised me. Because that's all and for me, that was church. That was my father listening to gospel songs in his car was church. That was God. My family wasn't religious. Like it was there, like you can ask anyone these days if they're Christian and people would say yes. So I guess we were that type of family, you know. Are you guys a Christian family? Yes. But there's nothing there that shows that we're a Christian family, well, except my dad listening to gospel music. Also, people listen to gospel music and they're not Christians. It's just a genre of music to understand. So when I grew up, I wasn't Christian. For me, I remember choosing to be Christian for the first time. I was in grade 9. And at that time, my family had become Christian. But when I was a child, when I was in primary school, I remember my aunt came to live with me. One of my aunts, shout out aunt, Auntie Deb. She now lives in Zanin, in Limpopo. But my aunt came to live with us, and she was fresh out of uni, right? Fresh out of uni, came to live with us, and she was so filled with God, you know. And she came, and she started going to church. And I looked at her, and it's funny now, and she's gonna laugh if she ever watches this, because we never got along when I was a child. My aunt and I never got along. Like a favorite of was my younger sister, I guess. But we never got along. But I swear I watched this lady, and I looked at her life, and there was something in her that resonated with me that I wanted. And I was young at the time. I was still in primary school, but I made it a thing about Jonga. And I'm gonna get it. And from that day, I remember I used to start going to church with her. Like I would want to go to church with her all the time. And then that's when I started going to church. And that's when I started going to Sunday school, you know? So for me, Christianity is a very personal thing because I never had it handed down to me.
Oh, yeah.
You get, like my family now practices Christianity, but when I go, you're alright, you know? When my parents decided to make and start raising us as a Christian family, I was already Christian when that happened. So for me, it has always very much been a personal journey. It has always very much been a lot of things that I share with you are not things that people told me. It's things that I have discovered for myself. So growing up like that, so as I said to you, I grew up like that. And you know, as people, we grow up and then we lose weight. And I did that as well. For a while, for the longest time.
So that was the time when you started living without Christ?
Yes.
Okay.
That's when I got to UCT actually. This was like my specifically my first and third years of university. My third year specifically, and there was a lot of things, but that's not what we're talking about that led up to that. That's not what we're talking about right now. But what I'm saying is, I know the pain of not having peace, and I can boldly stand here with I'm sitting. I can boldly sit here across you this afternoon and tell you that peace is Christ because I know it. I've seen it, and that's why this topic becomes so personal to me, and that's why I was crying yesterday when I made that analogy, because it's like I said to him yesterday, living life without Christ is like pulling a boulder up a mountain, up a hill, and you're just pulling your boulder slowly, and you're using all your mind, and you're moving, you're getting closer to the top. It's not that you're not moving, but it's so much hard work. It's back-breaking work, and next to you there's a truck, and there's someone driving a truck like, hey, you need help? And you're like, no, and you're just going, and you're hurting yourself in the process, and you're breaking your bones in the process, but you want to do it on your own, and you're doing it on your own. And that's what it is. There's so much grace in God, you know, that there's so much space for you to actually be yourself and still get that support that you need. Because, I don't know, there's the support that comes only from Him, that only if you've experienced it, you realize that it's different from any other thing that you've experienced. And these are the things now that I'm talking about that you would have to be inside to understand. Like if I had another person on this podcast right now who was Christian, they would attest to who had never met in our lives. They would attest to what I'm saying, you know? So, yeah, it's like me asking that question is not denying that there's no other way to do it. I'm sure there's many ways you can do it. Otherwise, people who are Christian wouldn't be anything in life. You understand? There's so many successful people who don't even know Christ who ask for me to sit here and make a statement like, you'll never be anything. But it's hard. It's way harder and tiring, you know? And I just feel like there's an easier way and there's a more fulfilling way. Because I said to him a lot yesterday, and everything I'm about to say right now is true. You can do it yourself without God, né? But there's three things. Firstly, you don't have to. You don't have to do it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
you can do it yourself, but one, you don't have to do it. Secondly, it's difficult, it's hard, and you will only realize how difficult your life was when you don't have to do it anymore. You understand? If you take someone who grew up on a farm and they're used to carrying, let me use a girl, because I'm a girl. Let's say someone grew up on a farm, they're used to carrying liters, yamans every morning. They won't feel it after some time. They won't even realize it's hot work until they don't have to, until they can just open a tap and water comes out. Then they realize, this whole time I could have just opened this tap instead of going to lunching every morning. And that's exactly what it is with God. The moment you come into Him, the moment you start to live your life with Him, you realize that was so much more harder. Life in that way was so much more harder. So that's the second one. And the third one is the most scary one for me. And it's the most controversial one, but you asked to speak about Christianity. The third one is, in the end, it's all worth it. It's worth nothing if you do it without God. Your whole life, at the end of it, yes, you will be rich if your dreams was to be rich. Yes, you will have a stable family if that's what your goal was. Because I'm not saying you can't do it, right? But when you die, then there's nothing. So you have to believe in nothing else, because that's the easiest thing to believe in when you believe in life without God. Because the reality of it is too scary for anyone to even think about.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I don't blame people who don't believe in hell. I didn't want to believe in hell for the longest time in my life. It was scary, you know? It's a hard topic to talk about. It's scary things for us as humans to fathom. So it's easy for us to I don't know, shy away from them, man. We don't talk about them, or we make alternatives for them. Easy alternatives that are easier for us to believe, easier for us to live with. But the truth is, in the end, it's for nothing.
Can I add something quickly?
Yes, you can.
You mentioned something about the support that you get from God, right? And it kind of made me realize just how the way I go about life is basically me depending on myself for almost everything.
Exactly.
Right. So, so when you said that, that popped into my mind, and I just wanna make sure that everyone who's watching this and listening to this conversation can realize that when you take the path, or let me just call it a path, the path of depending on yourself fully, the going never gets easy. It's difficult, having to do everything all by yourself, and you do feel the weight eventually, as time goes by. But like she just said, she doesn't have to feel all that weight, because at the end of the day, she's with God, and God is giving her all the strength she needs. So I just wanna say to everyone who's Christian, am I saying that correctly? Everyone who's Christian, I just want you to realize that you have something very, very special going on for you. And at the end of the day, you are going to come across people who are going to try to convince you against that. But do not break, stand strong. Because one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that within Christianity itself, there's structure in there. And in the world that we live in today, where a lot of things are happening, the structure kind of helps you, it keeps you grounded in a way. Everything that you do in life goes according to the structure. And that in itself makes life easy for you, because you do not go through life running, after the next shiny thing. Because this is one thing that a lot of people fail to realize, that there are people who say that they don't want to follow routines, they don't want to follow structures, because structures are limiting in themselves. But when you look at the kind of lives they live, you can clearly see that these people need help, but they don't realize that they do need help. So you just have to let them do what they want to do, even though at the end of the day it's going to end up killing them, or it's going to end up hurting them. But you just have to let them be, because they don't realize the value of structure. Even I was at that point once in my life where I felt like I don't want to do anything that I am told to do. I want to do things because I want to do them. But as I'm growing up. And this realization doesn't come because I'm growing up. It's because of the information that, that I've been gathering, through the assimilation of that information. I came to realize that in order for you to live a fulfilling life, a life, being at peace with yourself and everything, you need to ground yourself. And the only way to ground yourself is to have structure, is to have, a system to work from, And I'm not saying this in a sense that I'm trying to, turn Christianity into a structure, but I'm just saying this thing from my own side of the story. That's basically how I find my peace, by having structures and systems around myself that help me, from chasing the next shiny thing. Because that's just the thing. You are going to chase something, you get it, and then something else, come about, and then you run after that, and then something else come, and then you run after that. Eventually, you're gonna get tired of doing that. You possibly cannot, run around chasing things, which is basically the same thing that Dieketsen said 2 weeks back, when she told us that with the way people go about viewing happiness, most of their happiness depends on circumstances, conditions, to be more specific. Conditions. So if the conditions that made you happy are no longer there,
you're no longer happy.
Exactly. This is one of the few reasons why you need to ground yourself. Especially if you wanna have a family. The best thing that you can do for yourself and everybody who's gonna be in that family is to try to develop systems. The systems are going to limit you. Everything that you subscribe to is going to limit you one way or another. There are certain things that you're not going to be able to do because of that. And there's nothing wrong with limiting yourself. There's nothing wrong with subscribing to, I'm not saying you subscribe to, to Christianity, but I'm just saying that with everything that you subscribe to, right, there are going to be limitations because there are certain things that you just cannot do. But when you know that you are working towards a particular goal, you don't mind missing out on nobody's business. But as I was going through life, I kind of came to the realization that this is just not the type of life I can be able to sustain for a very long time. And especially if I want to, start my own, build my own family. Because, a lot of people talk about having a family. I talk about building one because the word having itself is like an end goal. But building is never ending, you just continue building. So with the way I was living, I realized, there's just no way I'm gonna, build a healthy, financially free family if I go on living my life like that. So I had to, try to introduce systems that are going to help me move forward.
You're right, Umbo. I mean, I strongly believe that one of the things that carried me, it's true, I had the conversation with my younger sister. I think it was a couple of months ago, or when I was at home, now in June actually, I think. I had the conversation with her that as a person you need to have a goal.
Yeah,
because
it's
your goal
very important.
Is what is going to direct the steps that you're going to take in life.
Yeah.
And you're right. The moment you have a goal and that is important to you, other things, because there's a lot of things happening in the world. There's a lot of new things popping up in the world. There's a lot of, I don't know, but like, okay, I say, you said I'm marketing myself, I'm not marketing myself. But one of the lyrics in my songs say, you need to stand firm or you're going to fall first. And
that's the latest song.
Yeah, that's the latest one. It's not it says you need to stand firm or you're going to fall first. And it's just a play on the saying that if you stand for nothing, then you fall for everything.
Yep.
And that is exactly the truth. That is the truth. And I think for me, one of the greatest benefits about being a Christian is that from the moment you accept Christ as your Lord and Savior, you have a goal. And the goal is to one day be in heaven with Him.
Yeah.
The goal is for Him to one day look at you and say, well done, faithful servant. You get what I'm saying? So that's the goal. So from that moment onwards, your life and the way you live your life is already like going in a direction towards the goal. And that in itself brings structure to you. I remember myself growing up in high school, there was a lot of things that I didn't partake in, that people my age partook in. And for a while, people were like, oh my God, you're so weird, you're so boring. But I never felt like that, You actually said something now where you said like, certain structures will limit you, but it's okay to be limited.
Yep.
Do you get what I'm saying? But the best thing about Christianity is that, sure, from the outside it looks like you're limited, you're living in a box, you're living in this cage. But as Uvuyo,
Yeah.
I don't feel that.
Exactly.
You know? And that's the greatest thing about Christ. And I think that's why God is saying to us, you can't do it by yourself. You need me to do it for you. Because the change is from within out. You know, Uvuyo used to like going out to last week. This is the truth. Uvuyo used to like going out. Now I can't anymore. Like I can't. Like I went out with my friends the other day. I was celebrating her birthday. So we ended up in law. And it was 12. The blood test when they watched this. It was 12 a.m. People were coming in and I was like, guys, I'm done. I need to go home. And they're like, what is this? Like, you know? The change is from within out, and the closer you draw to God, the further you draw from the world. Understand? It's an inverse thing. The more of God, the less of the world. The more of the world, the less of God. And that's how it goes. You can never have both. But like that structure that comes with that decision, and those limitations that come with that decision are from within. They are your choice. They are the way you choose to live your life. So you don't feel limited. Vegans don't look at people who eat meat and think, oh my God, I want steak. No. Because to me, as a person who eats meat, I'm like, are you mad? Do you know what this is? But for them, because that's not their life, they don't even desire that.
They
don't
goal.
exactly.
Yeah.
So they don't feel limited. They don't feel like they're not living their lives to the fullest. And I think that's the biggest misconception. I said to my friend a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Nev, shout out, I was talking to Nev, and I said to Nev that I think the core thing is not that people don't believe there's a God or people don't believe in Christianity. It's that people think Christianity would limit them too much.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, and I've had people say this to me, you're real now, I could never be, okay, I just say it in that sounds much better. You're John, and listen this one will go on the same, I know guys listen this one will go, like, funding dollar, like, go 35, like the grave is approaching. And that's what a lot of young people think, you know, I need to be young now, I need to live my life now, so I can't be doing this God thing, I'll see God later. And that is the biggest misconception that we have as young people, is that somehow being Christian limits you from living your life to the fullest as a young person. And that's a lie, because I strongly believe this is a personal thing, my mother told me this, but I strongly believe that you need God the most when you're young. You know, we're in an era now where we're making or breaking our lives. Just like I'm saying. Like everything we do as a young person. When you're old, all you're doing is living and reaping the things that you sow in your youth.
Yeah.
That's actually what you're doing when you're old. Where you build your life, every goal that you have for yourself, everything that you see, this is now where you're cultivating it. This is now where you're building it. I was saying to you yesterday that I'm so anxious. Yesterday, I don't think it was yesterday, but like we spoke about this. I was like, I'm so anxious about graduating and going into the real world. But like, I feel like I'm ready, but I'm so scared. And it's the most scared I've ever been of anything in my life, because I realize now that all these dreams that little boy was having growing up, all these goals I had for myself, I'm now only going to enter the platform where it's now you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Now you're either going to achieve all those goals or you're not going to achieve those goals. And it's going to be difficult, guys. The world out there is a cruel place because humans are cruel people. You know what I'm saying? Like, humans are cruel people. So I don't know how we expect life to be friendly to us.
Yeah.
You know, because we create life. And the world out there is a cruel place. It's a difficult place. How are we? Like, you think if Moses hadn't said to Jehovah, John, we're not going to move without you, they would have got to the promised land? Never. Never. You know, it's difficult. It's hard work, and that's why you find people getting into like abusive relationships with everything, with substances, with people, because you care for support. You need support when life is difficult.
Yeah.
You know, when you put the burden onto yourself, you will need a physical, like you will feel the need to have a companion almost all the time, because you desire that support. We all need that support. And if you're not getting it from within, which is what God is offering, if you're not getting it from within, you need to get it from other places.
That's true.
You need to get it from other people, you need to get it from money, you need to get, you know, and healthy relationships, I believe, and healthy relationships form to fill a void that a person has.
Yeah, definitely.
inside.
That's why they stick around.
Exactly.
Mm.
Because they're feeling a void. If a relationship with the person or with the substance, everything is unhealthy, it's then I think as a person you need to just introspect and see why exactly are you holding on to this thing even though you can see that it's unhealthy for you.
Mm.
And that usually comes because of a void that's trying to be filled.
Mm.
And that's what Christ offers, and that's what people don't realize. You know?
Mm.
That's what people don't realize, and I will repeat this maybe like 20 times by the end of this podcast. But you can do it on your own.
But
You don't have to.
Yeah, I know. I heard that one before. So yeah, but that's the thing. Like, which is gonna be the closing statement. So the thing is that I just wanna I'm just gonna repeat what I said before, especially to people who believe, who believe in God, who believe in Jesus, people who are basically Christians. Like I said, I just want you to realize that what you have going on for you is the most beautiful thing.
And anyone can have it. It's open to everybody.
Exactly.
That's the and you know I've heard this from a lot of people, and I feel like I need to say this. Okay? God is not like a human, and I'm saying this to the people watching this because I'm sure I told it to you 20 times. God is so superior to us in every way, in ways that even we as humans won't be able to understand.
Yeah.
If someone breaks your heart right now, if someone hurts you, it could be 5 years later and you always think back to that moment and you always feel pain. You get what I'm saying? God is not like that. God is different. God doesn't care what you did. God doesn't care what you think. And when God says come as you are, he's not saying fix your life first, Tumpo. You have a problem of, stealing. Stop that first and then come to me. That has never been God. That has never been the message God has been teaching. God is saying, boy, you're stealing, it's wrong. Come to me so I can teach you how to stop.
Mm.
And a lot of people draw away from God or stay away from God because they feel as though, like, I'm too bad. Like I've had a friend say to me, we were walking into church, I had invited him to church, and I had a friend say to me, I can't be here, this place is not for people like me. Do you know what I've done? Like, it was crazy, because he said it when we were walking into the gate, and I was like, oh, whatever. But we got to the door, and we stopped, and I looked at his face, and I've never seen him, show so much fear before. And not because I was looking at him weird, not because he was saying, I can't be in this place, do you know what I've done? Church is not for people like me. And I think that's a lot, we hold ourselves back. The Bible says, sin creates a wedge between us and God, right? But that's not because God is moving. God is ever constant. God is never changing. You think you as a human could change God's nature? Please. He's God. If you could, he wouldn't be God. So God is never changing. If God says you will meet me and at, point A, God will always be at point A. We are the people who move. You get what I'm saying? The more we sin, the more we move away from point A. And we do that because we're scared. Just like Adam and Eve did in the Garden of Eden. They hid. Adam used to be God's best friend. They used to commune every day. But the moment he sinned, he ran away. God still came. Do you think God didn't know that Adam had sinned when he came down to Garden of Eden to meet Adam like he's always been meeting Adam? No, he knew. But this time he got there and Adam wasn't there. Adam, where are you? Adam, I used to meet you at point A. You're not there anymore. He has moved away. Why? Because sin has come in. And that's what sin does. That wedge is from our side. We run away from God. God always says, where you sin, come to me so I can show you how to stop. So I want to tell you guys, it's open to everybody. It's open to everybody. It doesn't matter what you think right now. It doesn't matter what you believe right now. As long as there's still breath in your lungs, there's still time on your watch.
I'm glad you said those words. We've come to the end of our episode, and I would love to thank you once more for coming here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I enjoyed this talk though.
Because we weren't arguing for the first time.
What do you mean? Like everybody that I talk to, I always argue with. Okay, I'm not the one who's arguing. People argue with me. But that's a topic for
another day. Maybe you should have me back for that topic.
Definitely. I am still gonna have a lot of people back here again. Because we are constantly changing. We are constantly growing.
True.
You're not gonna be the same person that you are today. So
exactly.
one day I'll give you a call and be like, I need you back. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you everyone for staying with us for 40 minutes. I hope you guys will get something valuable out of the podcast. And I, brought Vuyo here for a reason. I always bring people here for a reason because I feel like they have something valuable, something that we all can learn from. And when I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that we are touching on a little bit of psychology, I was just trying to show you that even with the topic that we were having today, we were not, deviating from the real purpose of the podcast. We were not, deviating. We are still on track. So I hope you did get something of value from the podcast, and I will see you again next week.
Thank you.